What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Motivation Monday. Today, I have a very special guest, Mike Hohensee. I know him as Coach O. He has played professional football at the USFL, AFL, CFL, and NFL level. He's one of the premier quarterback trainers in the country. And I don't say that lightly, guys. I don't vouch for just anybody. We had a camp a few weeks ago that was just one of the best camps I went to for youth athletes and for high school athletes. And this guy just has an inspiring story. So, Coach O, thank you for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I wanted to do it right after the camp day, but I know you got a lot of QBs to train. You're a very busy guy. So I could start with the question, man.
Sure.
Let's go back in time a little bit. What was your childhood like, and when did you know you wanted to play professional football?
Well, I think at the beginning, I was just a good athlete, and probably my best sport, people would tell you, was probably baseball. And then it wasn't really till high school, my sophomore year, I became a quarterback. I was always a receiver,
Okay.
to tell you the truth. And I was throwing the ball back to the quarterback better than he was throwing it to me. And coach said, hey, he butchered my name. He said, do you always throw like that? And I said, yeah, I think so, a majority of the time. And from that point on, I was a quarterback. But I always knew I wanted to be great at something. And because I didn't have a great childhood. And it wasn't just me, it was my other brothers and sisters too. You know, it was a very tough environment to grow up in. And for me, the best place for me to be was away from the home. So I would leave the house early and come home late. So I trained, brother. I went out there, and whoever I could find, whoever would answer the phone to go throw or run or whatever it was or lift, that's who happened to be my partner for the day.
Wow. So I watched one of your reels, and you said something that resonated with me a lot. You know, I'm half Mexican, half white. You have some Asian background, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said in your video, there's not a lot of guys that look like me in the levels I've played, being NFL, CFL, USFL.
Right.
And that's just the truth. People will look, but how many Asian background people with an Asian background play professional football?
Well, I don't even know how many were given a chance. You know, growing up, I didn't find out I had the Asian background, the Filipino background, the Samoan background, all of those things until I was 31 years old. You know, my name should have been Suzuki.
Wow.
So would I have even got on the field or been taken seriously if I walked out there, my name was Mike Suzuki as a quarterback? You know, I don't know. You know, no one could really tell because I look a little different. You know, my name is German and I don't look like German, don't have an ounce of German in me. It's an adopted name. So I just don't know how many people with the name Suzuki at that time, when I grew up anyway, would have even got an opportunity and been taken seriously in sports.
Fair. So you mentioned, and only with what you're comfortable with talking about, you mentioned a rough childhood.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
It was abusive. It was mental abuse, physical abuse, and it wasn't just me. You know, my siblings went through it as well, and it was awfully tough. So, you know, we had to figure it out, and we bonded as kids, and every day was like a day of survival. You know, you were able to exhale when the car left, and you tightened up when you heard the car pulling back in, and it was just one of those lifestyles. And, you know, and parents got divorced and all kinds of different things that, you know, a lot of families go through. But, you know, I don't know if all people that go through those type of things thrive in life. And I remember laying in bed one day when I was a kid saying I was never going to treat my kids this way. And, you know, said it out loud while I was crying and laying in bed, and probably 11 years old. And I probably just had enough of it. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I think back on it now, you know, the things that happened to us were horrendous. And, you know, no child should go through those things. So I think that's why I've lived a life of understanding what's out there. And, you know, and that's just my story.
Right.
That's not the story you don't hear. And, you know, there's a bunch of people out there, a bunch of kids out there, and sometimes they look a certain way when they roll up, and they got that look in their eyes, and, you know, I recognize that look. in some of these kids. And that's why when they come to me, I want to try to make it fun. I want to try to make them feel relevant, and they're going to have a good football experience as long as they're with me, because I know how important that is. And I know how probably football singularly probably saved my life.
Wow. Yeah, I relate to that, not myself, but my dad and my mom, same thing. When I grew up, when I became a young man and I found out what my dad and my mom went through growing up compared to me, and I know your daughter and Mikey can relate to this too because they're just great people. I was like, what? I was like, Dad, you went through that. His dad was an alcoholic, beat him. My mom's story, my goodness, should be a movie. I mean, brother gets locked up for 42 years, other brother gets shot, dad gets shot. And so they grew up in that dysfunction. And because they say cycles repeat, but I don't like to let anybody off the hook. I like to say, listen, if your dad was abusive and that had such a negative and you went through all that trauma, when you become a father, my dad says this, I learned what to do for my dad because I just did the opposite with my kids. And I'm like, well, thank you so much, because we grew up very blessed and they grew up in chaos. So it only takes one generation to change that, though. Like, you're the example that you and your wife are the example that you pass down to your kids. And for you to not, because the easy thing, well, my dad was like this or my family was like, so I'm just going to do the same with my kids. But it's like, I don't like letting people off the hook anymore.
Yeah, to me, it's a cop-out. It really is. I understand the pain and the mental anguish that people go through, but sooner or later, you're an adult and you've got to make your own decisions. What you eat, where you live, who you hang around with, all of those things are your decision. And I wasn't going to let it happen. And I made that decision, like I said, when I was very young. And here I am, 65 years old, and I can remember a conversation I had with myself at 11, talking about these things. And I think one of the great things about growing up, man, you learn so much about yourself, no matter what the situations are. I still talk to myself every day. I talk positivity into my life because there's so much negative. I mean, as soon as I turn the news on, because a lot of times I watch the news I get up at 4:30 and I watch the news just because I want to see the weather. And I got to fight through all this other crud that goes on in the world. So, every day when I take a walk, because I walk every day, I talk out loud to myself positive things about what I'm going to do, positive things about myself and my health and my well-being and how I'm going to treat people today and who I'm getting ready to work with and engage that day. I know I might be one of the most important people in their lives. And a lot of these kids I am, because I'm their quarterback coach or their coach, period. And, they find me to be a safe place for them. And there needs to be a safe place for people to kind of learn, so they're not thinking they got to fight through everything to have a good day. You don't have to fight through everything, man. You just got to prepare yourself and understand your surroundings sometimes, and prepare yourself the night before. That's exactly what I do. I prepare myself the night before. Everything you see me post has been set for at least 2 days. I'm ready to put that out there, and I make sure that this is a good message. And I'm usually talking to at least one person.
Right.
Sometimes I'm talking to a group, but usually it's a situation that comes up in my training, in my life, whatever it may be. And maybe this person is tough to approach to help them, so I'll reach them through a post. Yeah. And I know they follow me and they read those things. And I know there's people out there that I don't even deal with anymore, and they text me and say, I read your post to my kids every single day. So for me, I know how important what I say and who I am is out there in the world, and I take that very seriously.
Do you think playing the quarterback position helps with that? Has any correlation to how you communicate with others? Because you guys are the leaders of the team. Typically, you have to have a lot down packed. Do you think that helps with, just because I would agree, your posts help me. Your posts help me a lot. And I believe you have a very strong gift with communication, with talking to people. Yeah. When you talk, people listen. And it's not with everybody, but I look at you as a leader in that aspect. So do you think playing quarterback throughout your, high school, collegiate, professional career helped you with that?
I think playing quarterback forced me to be that guy. And I wasn't the verbal leader growing up, but you weren't going to outwork me. I was that leader by example. And, I worked extremely hard. I used to work out in my garage with my dad. Again, that car drove up. I had to be ready in that garage, and we did what we did. But I think it's important for everybody to understand, that there's a lot of positivity out there as well in this world, and you've got to be open to it, in my opinion.
So when you were in high school, because you went to a junior college first, correct? Before
Yes.
University of Minnesota.
Yes.
What did that look like?
Well, again, I was in a program in high school that, wasn't real good. There was a few kids that took it seriously. I can remember, going out and marching up. You know how it is to march up to the field with your team. You're getting ready to play that Friday night lights game, and they open the gate, and we're kind of rocking back and forth, waiting to go out there. And I get here in the back, where's the party at tonight? And I'm thinking to myself, I was that kid. I never went to a party in high school.
Right.
My idea was fun after the game was going to Denny's and having tapioca pudding with my family afterwards and talking about the game. So that, I was disgusted with, what happened there. And it was tough. It was a tough environment. It wasn't everybody, but it was a few people.
Right.
And, it didn't help the cause in any way. And so, I came from a program that, didn't get a lot of notoriety. I was the only guy for a long time that played college football. And I ended up playing in this high school all-star game. And I ended up getting MVP in the game. And Mount Sac Junior College happened to be there. And they did their research after the game, and they ended up coming and talking me into coming out there and playing. And really, at that point, it was just like junior college was going to be a kind of a dead end. You just never knew what was going to happen for you. But we had a great program, great coaches, unbelievable athletes. I mean, the program, and 95% of our guys got D1 scholarships coming out of there.
Wow.
That's how good the talent was there. So, you walk in, and it's like you think you're going to walk the dog on everybody, and they're just nothing but dogs at this place. So you had to earn your keep. And I remember how tough it was, trying to earn the starting spot. And I was also a punter. That continued in my career, and actually my son Mike Hohensee, his career as well. But it was one of those things where all of a sudden it just clicked. We ran the triple option the first year I was there, and we started getting into situations where we had to do like a 2-minute. So we put in a shotgun 2-minute offense, and we started doing it pretty well. And that's when we changed from being a triple option team to throwing the ball around a little bit, and had some good success out there. And that's when I got my scholarship to the University of Minnesota.
How many years were you at the junior college?
I was there 2 years.
2 years?
I was there for 2 years, yeah.
And so, and you grew up in California, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you high school in California, then Sacramento. Oh wow! So from California to Minnesota.
It was culture shock.
Yeah.
Because my first plane ride was my recruiting trip to Minnesota. So here I am, almost 20 years old, going out there and never been on a plane, and obviously they showed me a good time, and it looked like a good opportunity. The toughest part of it was, though, I had to beat out the coach's son, who had been the starter his freshman year. But I watched film, and they promised me I had a great opportunity, and by watching film, I thought I was farther ahead of this kid, at least in my passing skills. Let's put it that way. And so I agreed to go out there. And once I got out there, I was out there early. It was spring break, and I was in the dorms. No one else was out there. It was just me. And it was cold and snowy. I didn't know anybody. There was one person, the person who ran the dorm, and I was the only person in the dorm. So they weren't real happy about me being there and them having to probably be there. And there was nothing open. Everyone was gone. It was snowing, blizzards. It's like, I wasn't prepared. And the only place open was a Slotsky's. I don't know if you remember those restaurants. You probably don't even know what a Slotsky is. The round sandwiches, they were great. You just don't see enough of them anymore. But it was tough. It was a tough environment. Then all of a sudden everybody comes back, and I'm the new guy in there. Everyone's coming back from vacations, and we're getting ready. They have the team meetings, all those things. And we're going to put the depth chart up. I go out there and look at the depth chart, and I'm 7th on the depth chart. 7th on the depth chart, brother. And I could just feel my heart go down to my gut. And I remember talking to my family and things like that. And, the approach I took, being 7th on the depth chart, I wasn't going to jump from 7 to 1 in one day. So I handled my business each and every day and only worried about my reps. As much as I wanted to be the starter, I couldn't affect the guys that were ahead of me. The only way I could affect those guys was to keep pressure on them and to not have a bad rep, stack those good days. And that's how it happened. And by the end of spring ball, before we left for the summer, I was number 2.
Wow, climbed 6 spots.
I worked my way up there. And I had a great spring game. And I know the line coach really liked me because I was a tough kid. I stayed in the pocket, all those things. I had the ability to scramble. But one of the things I heard that they didn't like about the other guy was his pocket presence.
Okay.
So I was going to have pocket presence. Whether it was who I was or not, I was going to have pocket presence. And it went well. And I went home and, did all the work I had to, came back fall ball. And I didn't find out I was a starting quarterback till the Monday before we played Purdue that Saturday. And I was lifting in the weight room and I heard it over the radio in the weight room that I was going to be the starter. I haven't even talked to the coach yet. And the weight room went crazy, which was a good sign.
Yeah.
I was a weight room kid, growing up. And that year, I got voted to the All-American strength team. I was the strongest quarterback in the nation. So I had to gain my respect everywhere that I was on that campus. And sometimes it was lonely, but then after a while, you started kind of stepping in with the people that were like you, that really wanted it, that had a passion for the game. And maybe this was something that was saving their life too. I was, like I said, I know I'm not the only one out there that went through difficult times in the household. So I know there's a lot of guys out there where this was their release, and it still is. I still believe that's out there for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And so, that's why I take very seriously what I do.
When I first got into coaching, I realized X's and O's are important, but sometimes a young man needs an arm around him. Hey, how's everything, man? Are you okay? You seem down today. So I take that part of the coaching, just as seriously, if not more seriously, especially at the high school level. Because not all these kids want to play college. Not all these kids have aspirations. Some of these kids are, like you said, I have had a few athletes that say, I just want to play football because I don't want to go home. And I'm like, oof. I was like, all right, well, let's make these football years the best we can. And I just want you to know I'm here for you. It's extending that genuine, heartfelt, like, hey, let's talk, not blowing up right away if they, make a mistake or, oh, you're so this. I'm not the type of coach that likes berating athletes at all. I know that gets kind of popular, and honestly, that's part of my distaste with, like, I coach 7-on-7, but that's part of my distaste with that whole thing. I think it's a lot of these guys are just, I'm like, you're cussing out 8-year-olds, right? I'm like, what are you doing?
I think there's a place for hard coaching. I don't think there's a place for MFing everybody,
right,
or calling them artards, or combining the two. Okay? I think when you get around coaches that revert to that kind of language to youth kids and high school kids, I think they lack something. I think they lack knowledge. I think they lack coaching ability. I think they're insecure. All of those things come into play. If you've got good football knowledge, man, become a good teacher. There's a way that your message can be heard without having to filter through all the other crap that you're going to throw at these kids, because they don't need that. They're here for a good football experience, and then when they leave you, they got another whole life that they're going to live. And sometimes they can never get away from that, and you're just part of the problem. You just add to it, you stack to it. Sometimes you need to be that safe place where it's like, you know what, I'm going to go here. I love football, and I'm going to continue to love football because of the way I'm treated and the things that are coming out of his mouth. Now I'm learning. I'm not hearing just part of it, because I got to filter through all that other stuff that's out there. And I'm not saying I'm a saint. Believe me, I used to be a champion cusser, okay? And now I'm not. I don't cuss around anybody. And I think that surprises a lot of people when they first meet me, especially when I move to different places. But I think one of the things that I'm proudest of as a coach, trainer, whatever you want to label this whole thing, is families trust me with their kids. And I'm not just talking about the football part of it. I don't know how many lunches have been set up or just meetings somewhere where they drop their kid off. And will you talk to my son about school? Will you talk to my son about his relationship with his brother? Will you talk to my son about how it is to be a leader now that he's won the job. Or you talk to my son who didn't get the opportunity, he's still second string and doesn't know if he wants to play football anymore. They trust me with that. And I don't know if, especially a young man, as volatile as young men are at those ages, man, for them to put them in front of me, I know how much trust that takes. Because I don't know if there was anybody in my life that I would have put my son in front of. And we probably know some of the same people that maybe I do trust him with. But I know how it is out there as a parent. I think the main thing I know that these parents can trust in me, I know what that kid's going through from the time he leaves his door in the morning and goes to school, gets on that bus, gets in the car with a bunch of kids, whatever it is, goes to school, has to fight through, why is that guy our quarterback? What makes him so special? Or you'll never be that guy, or whatever the case may be. And then they got to get back on that bus again. Then they got to go home and walk through that door. And a lot of people think that door's the safe place. There's just a lot of times more of that waiting for them. They can't even get away from it. So I understand that. I've been that kid that had to walk through that door, and maybe it was even worse on the other side of that door. So I'm going to be there for those kids. And if you need your kid to be cussed at and you think that's the way that's going to get through to your kid, don't bring him to me. Mm-hmm. Your kid's going to have a good experience. He's going to have fun. He's going to learn to do it the right way. And the information that I get from the people in the NFL. I've been around a long time. I think I'm the old man out here now, as far as quarterback coaching goes. So I know a lot of people, and I trust them with the football part of it anyway. And, I listen to it. I think about it. Can I coach it that way? And if I can, then that's what I'm going to do. But it's consistent. And these guys, every time they show up, man, I shake everybody's hand. I greet them with a smile. And I shake everyone's hand when they leave. And I think it's important to them. And one of the other things I think I do well at my sessions, besides the football part of it, obviously, at the end, I ask them questions. So give me some coaching points back from what happened today. And it makes them be relevant. It makes them be accountable, make sure they're listening because they know that's coming at the end. And I listen to them and I let them talk because those quarterbacks, like we just talked about, they're the ones that are going to have to get up and talk in front of that team.
Right.
Our coach is going to give them the pen and say, hey, Billy, now go draw this up for us and explain to the offense what you're looking at. Okay, so they got to be comfortable with that. And I think our kids are. I think they realize that. And I love when I have my older kids are there in high school, and maybe I'll have them with some middle school kids every once in a while, and those guys become mentors as well.
Yeah, that what I noticed at the camp is like the guys that have been with you for a while, they're just very confident and calm, and you could sense the leadership off of them. But we're not born with that. That comes from somebody. So big props to you for how your guys handle themselves and how mature they are on the field. I think as a quarterback, that's one of the most important things is just having that maturity because, man, quarterbacks are some of the most scrutinized guys on any football team.
No doubt.
And it's
no doubt.
You could throw 5 touchdown passes, but people focus on that one interception you threw. So I'm like, man, to be a quarterback, I played receiver and running back. It's like I just got to run through somebody and not, I want to know more about the game in terms of X's and O's. But for me, we had a triple option offense when I went to Downers North as well. So it was like dive or pitch, dive or pitch, dive or pitch.
Walk out to practice. You got the tape out there.
Yeah.
Right? You're working off the tape, brother. Yeah,
running the option right, option left. And when I got to college, I was like, oh, man, I don't have to be in a 3-point stance anymore. I'm in a 2-point. You're telling me I could be in a 2-point now?
I'll show you a good 2-point stance down the road, too.
I was like, that's incredible. So when you were how many years were you at Minnesota? How many playing years did you get? Because 2? So eligibility, because in Juke, it's so different now.
Yeah.
And so those JUCO 2 years had direct eligibility impact on your next 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
Did you know you wanted to play professionally before you got to Minnesota, or was that something you kind of realized at Minnesota?
It was a goal. I don't know if I really said it out loud. I honestly, God, I always wanted to be the best where I was, because if I didn't have the strongest arm, I was going to work on arm strength. If I wasn't the fastest quarterback, I was going to work on my speed. If I was a quarterback that didn't hold and the other guy did, I was going to become a better holder than that guy. Okay? The tough part about that in high school was I was the kicker. as well as the punter and all that stuff. But as I moved up, I was always the holder. So I was going to be the best. What's the time? We always had stopwatches on it. So I was going to be the best at it. And I think that was a big reason I had success, is because I always just wanted to be great where I was. I didn't think about later on. I think my lifestyle didn't give me a chance to think about later on. I was going to be great that day. How was I going to survive that day when I went home? What was I going to do? I was going to walk in the door quickly with whatever bags I had with me and go right to my room, say goodnight, and put a Beach Boys V8 tape on and listen to Endless Summer, which you probably know nothing about.
I know the Beach Boys, but I'm a little cultured now. So when you graduated from Minnesota, what did that pro transition look like? Like, who was your first team?
Well,
like, what did the agents look like at the time? Did you get an invite to the NFL Combine?
Well, the first thing right after Minnesota, I played in the Hula Bowl in 1983.
Okay.
Dan Marino was my roommate. The original Kurt Warner was our tailback. Just a ton of Hall of Famers were in that game. As a matter of fact, I just met up with somebody.
With the C.
Yeah.
Kurt Warner, running back, stud.
I just met up with somebody yesterday who actually returned my helmet that I had given him 43 years later.
No kidding.
He gave me that helmet back. We just had lunch the other day. But that was a big experience for me, being around all those guys. And it really, to me, what it did is it validated my abilities to be around those guys. It didn't validate my abilities to get there and to be chosen. But once I was there and we did the drill work and things like that, I had a good game. I threw a touchdown and I had one dropped. And Dan Marino ended up getting an MVP. My head coach there butchered my name, just like everyone had butchered my name up to that point. On the first bus ride to practice, it was Jackie Sherrill, I believe, was the head coach. I forget where he was. And he gets up there, he goes, Hohensee. And I'm waiting to hear if anyone answered. I said, is that Mike Hohensee? I said, here. So that's kind of how it started. And I kind of had to earn that respect the whole way. And everyone kind of laughed, on the bus, of course. But it was a great week. It was a memorable week and one I'll never forget. But that was the class of '81 quarterback class. John Elway, Marino, and it was. Here I was, the 5'11" and 7/8 quarterback out of Minnesota. And so I got an opportunity to play in the USFL. That's when that came about. And that was interesting. We didn't have a very good team. I thought we had a team full of misfits, which, it was funny because I remember the halftime of our first game, coach is up there trying to talk it was a chalkboard then, and when you go with the chalk, and I'm like this. Because they're smoking in the locker room, and I'm thinking to myself, this is professional football.
Oh man!
So it was what it was. But I went on from there. I ended up playing up in Canada. I played arena football. I think I'm a trivia question by now. Played in just about every league. So I had good experiences. And I call them good experiences because I was able to learn from all of them.
Yeah.
And met some unbelievable people. And got put in some tough situations that I failed at, and some that I thrived at. And I think that going through all of that, I think has really shaped who I am. And I'm able to converse with a kid like Israel Abrams,
stud,
who's a stud. He's going to University of Miami.
Great and young man too.
Yeah, unbelievable family.
Yeah,
unbelievable
great
family.
I got to talk with them a little bit at your camp, and
yep.
Dad's amazing. Israel's a great kid. Like
right.
he's gonna be. Yeah. He's already phenomenal, but man, I can't wait to see his career progress.
Yeah, he's one of those kids that I think one day I really believe he may be up for the Heisman Trophy. I think he'll be potentially a first-round draft pick. He's one of those personalities, and he works his butt off, and he's talented. And he's a great teammate, and he's a great son. I've seen him. I've been coaching him since he's 9 years old, and I've seen him in all these environments, man. And what you see is what you get.
Right.
You watch him in his interviews. He's got a big smile. He looks like he loves life.
Yeah.
I think you love life when you love family, and I think it all starts with his family. And they're just tremendous, and they entrusted me a long time ago, and I'm glad to say that I've never abused that trust.
Yeah.
And so I think. All those experiences not only help me help him and guide his family through that, but it's going to help me with a lot of people that aren't going to be as successful. and they have to deal with failure in their mind. And my job is to make sure they never feel like a failure, and that they always feel like someone who's trying to get better, and always has hope that they might.
How do you, as someone who's a coach and a trainer, if you had a kid come up to you who's maybe he lost his position or he's a backup and he's a coach, I feel like a total failure. What would you say to that kid?
Well, we talk about the process. I say, first of all, you're not a failure. You came and talked to me. If you were a failure, you wouldn't have come to me, because you coming to me means you still feel like there's hope somewhere. You may not say it out loud, but you feel like there's hope, and I might be able to help you with that. And that's another thing that I feel good about, because there's a ton of kids out there that I deal with that are very quiet, and all of a sudden become blabbermouths when they're around me. And they start feeling comfortable in their own skin. And I got kids that are talent-wise will probably never be a real successful high school quarterback, but they're probably going to lead some Fortune 500 companies one day. And these are kids that can recite everything that I give them. Okay, they may not be able to go out there and do it and apply everything successfully, but they can recite everything. They pay attention, and they don't feel lost in the world. And I get a lot of kids that are bullied at school, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And when they come to me, it's another world for them. And I love that about what I do, that I have that opportunity, to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And that's the challenging part about this occupation, and the rewarding part about this occupation.
Let's talk about the Chicago Bears. You're 1987, I believe.
Yes.
There was a strike, a player strike.
Yes.
You got an opportunity with the Chicago Bears, and this was more towards the end of your playing career, correct?
Oh yeah.
How did that even happen? I think because I'll be honest, and it's not accurate, but one of my favorite football movies, is The Replacements. Keanu Reeves, I love that movie.
Yep.
So what did that process look like? Like, where was your season previously, and when did you get a call from the Bears? Like, how did that look like?
Brother, I was working for Coca-Cola, dragging around pre-mixed tanks to bars and things like that. I was a bartender at that time as well, doing whatever I could to try to keep in shape, you know what I mean? Because whatever I could do to get some cash under the table, whatever it was, because I was basically a football whore at that time. I was going to play anywhere I could and just trying to keep my hand in the mix. And I remember coming home and getting home like 3-something in the morning from bartending, because it's an endless job when you're bartending.
Yeah.
And there was a note on the bar, and I was renting a room from a guy who was a cop. And there was a message there that, McCaskey, the Bears, called. He wants you to come to camp with the Bears. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, right. He's messing with me.
Yeah,
he's
he's pranking you. Yeah,
didn't even know about what was going on. And I remember getting up, way later in the day, that day. He said, "Did you call the Bears?" I said, "What do you mean I called the Bears? I forgot even about the note." He said, "I left you a note." He said, "What do you mean you left me a note?" And he showed me the paper, that there was going to be a strike and all this stuff. So that's how it went. That's how it got started. And they called me and said what was going on. And that was my opportunity. I had a few days to go out there and really throw. I was kind of doing it where I could before, because I was working multiple jobs in the off season, and had a chance to go with the Bears, and knew really nothing about their organization, anything like that, at that time. So it was a great experience. And there was some other arena guys that were there as well. So, that gave me a little bit more comfort when we got there. But, 1 minute you're serving drinks to somebody that, is probably trying to struggle through life. The next minute you're sitting across the table from Mike Ditka. And he's telling you how important you are to this team right now and what's going on. And I think the best thing about Mike Ditka at that point, it's crazy how he becomes part of my life later on too, is he treated us like the Bears. We felt relevant. We didn't feel like scabs or replacements or whatever, labels would be put on us. We were guys that had just as much of a passion for the game as everyone else. And maybe we didn't have the right guidance or didn't get the opportunity to take the same path to get to that room, but we were there. And it meant a great deal to all of us that were there.
That's so This is such a crazy story. You're working as a bartender, and then I would have thought that note. I was like, man, get that note away from me. Like, what are you
That's
talking
exactly
about?
what it was.
How did that person get that intel?
They called. They found me. They called the number there.
Yeah.
Because we
Oh,
used to have phones in the
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Believe it or not, because there was no cell phones. Something connected to the wall. Yeah. So,
They called you. Wow.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, being able to, because after that you coach. That's when you got into coaching, and what was your first after your playing days? Because you coached during your playing days too.
Yeah, high school, junior college.
During playing arena football,
absolutely.
and I did the same thing. Like I said, in my arena days, seasons in the spring, fall season for high school. So I went and coached high school. My buddy hooked it up for me, and that was a great experience. But when you officially retired from playing, actually, I want to go over this because you have a very strong mindset. I know a pretty good amount of professional football players, and what I notice is when a lot of them retire, they're lost. They put so much of their life into the sport that it's almost like, now what? Who am I? They put their whole identity into being a player. And you know what? I'm kind of speaking about myself a little bit in a way. Because
but look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Brother, I've seen some of the people that you've interviewed. I know who some of your friends are. I've seen you at different camps and at different events. And you're putting yourself out there to the right people, in my opinion. You're doing the right thing with your time, and you're putting yourself out there as you. There's no label for you right now. You don't have a title. You're somebody out there that's actually putting their thoughts and questions in, and you're curious about life. You're curious about different aspects of life. And that's how you're going to find out about yourself. And that just being curious, in my opinion, is going to point you in the right direction. So I'm excited for you. I really am. I'm honored to be here right now, but I'm real excited to see where this takes you.
I appreciate that a lot. No, that means a lot to me. Can we speak a little bit about what? Okay, this is one of the coolest things I loved about the camp that you had this year. The drills are great athletes there. Oh my gosh, the talent level. But one of the coolest things I thought about that camp is your family's involvement in it.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Your daughter, was that your son-in-law there too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your son.
Possibly future.
Okay. Yeah. Your son, your daughter-in-law, your wife. I'm like, they were checking people in. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. The same thing happens all the time with the BBs too. They're such a tight-knit family. That was so cool. I was raving about his family's involvement in this camp. Can you speak on that a little bit? Because usually it's a one-man show at the camp like that. The family's kind of away from it, and that was awesome.
My camp, to me, is sacred. This was the 5th annual time we did it. To me, it's a celebration of my family and my company. I only do one camp. I know there's a lot of guys out there who do multiple camps, and that bothers me. And a lot of people tell me I should do more camps. I'm not going to do it. But this is a celebration. I give talks all the time after my sessions throughout the year, and I talk about my family. I talk about my son, my daughter, my wife, all of those things. And now they get to meet all of them. And I think, when you walk in and the first person you see is my wife, Mrs. Ho, at registration, taking your name, treating you like you're a rock star, because that's just who she is. And then moving down the line and seeing my daughter, and she's talking to you like you're the most important person there. And then my son, who is another rock star in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Who's going to be just an unbelievable coach one day. And whoever ends up taking a chance on that kid, they're going to be very happy. But I think it shows people that, the things I talk about aren't just talk. I'm willing to put my family out there. I didn't put a clever name onto my company. I put my name on it, okay? And I'm not hiding behind something that's clever or something that was made up or something AI helped me get, all of those things. This is my family. I love them, I trust them, and I believe in them, and I think you will too. And, a lot of the families hear me talk about, and especially when we have some of these issues that we talk about. A lot of people say, oh, they were sick. My mother died. I said, oh, I'm sorry, your mother died, And I said, did they do hospice? Because my wife's a hospice nurse. So they know all about my family. And, I don't keep anything away from anybody as far as that is, because I'm extremely proud of them. I love being Mike's dad. I love being Kayla's dad, Chad's dad. I love being Deb's husband, as much more so than being a coach. And really, in the end, it's not even close, because when I go to sit down and I have my peaceful moments, those are the people I'm sitting with, and they're loving and they're funny, and they live life with pride, and they love each other, and they're there for each other. They encourage each other. And I think all of them have a gift of gab that I didn't at a young age. And I love how they engage with each other. And it's just, yeah, I can sit back. It's like, I'm good right here.
Yeah.
I'm in a great place.
Well, when I speak on one of them, well, your son, Mikey, he taught me more about the game of football than I think I've ever learned in my life. His IQ with coverage and defenses and offensive schemes, it blew my mind. He has hundreds of years worth of knowledge, and we're the same age. We were roommates when we went over to, we played Mount St. Joseph's in Cincy. And he was doing his sessions with the quarterbacks. I'm like, gosh, these freaking young quarterbacks are going to be so good at reading cover twos and cover threes. By the time they're in high school, forget it.
Yeah.
They're going to do pre-snap reads are going to be amazing.
The amazing part about what he's doing right now, he's got 7th and 8th graders that are better at reading defenses than some of the seniors that are leaving to go to college. They already have an understanding. You know, they'll say, oh yeah, they're in a nickel and 25 is a nickel. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Okay, a majority of those kids in high school don't have any idea how to read defense like that. And I coach some of them that refuse to do it, okay? But I know there's a ton of other guys out there that could really use what he does, and what he is that I didn't know if he was going to be or not. I think he's a very good teacher.
Yeah, incredible.
Which I think you have to be. If you're going to be a great coach, I think you have to be a great teacher. And I don't know if that's something he picked up by osmosis, because I've had some unbelievable assistant coaches with me that have been great teachers. And obviously he was that kid that was around all of that. So hopefully it looks like some of that rubbed off on him. And we're extremely proud of him. And even if he wasn't a coach, if you know him as a kid, he's an unbelievable person.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he just got married within the last couple months to a wonderful woman, Evan. And they're going to have an unbelievable life because they're two great human beings that care about people, and they care about the world around them. And I couldn't be prouder of all my kids.
Yeah, no, Mikey's my guy, man. I love Mikey. That's my guy. Like I said, I learned so much from him that it's not even, yeah, he was teaching me football. You know, I have a running back brain, run straight, block this guy, block the Mike.
Yeah.
You know, he's teaching me about coverages, what to look for, pre-snap reads, post-snap reads. I'm like, all right. I may still be a running back receiver guy, but if I have the mind of a quarterback, that could only benefit me. And I think that's such a unique niche of him doing video calls with the clients and like showing them coverages and going over film. Right. Because my good coaches always taught me, hey, don't just watch film to watch film. You're not just looking at your highlight plays.
Don't watch the ball.
Yeah. What's the mic doing? You play running back, right? What's the mic and the will doing? Absolutely. Do they have any tip-offs? Can you tell when they're blitzing? Like, that's going to help you play faster.
Someone's going to give it away.
Right.
You know, if it ain't the NFL, even the NFL guys give it away. Somebody's giving it away, and you got to have the patience to find out who that is.
Yeah. Do you have a coach in any of your time playing that helped you a lot? And you could name multiple. You don't even have to name them, but like that helped you with just your mindset. And because I love the messages you give, it's all about never giving up and never letting the circumstances dictate who you are, and not being, because a lot of athletes, man, they're so short fused. And I tell my athletes all the time, because I train athletes, I'm like, listen, you want to know how many perfect football games I've ever had in my life? And the younger ones will be like, 3 or 4. I'm like, zero. I've never not made a mistake playing football. I miss a block, you know, and I tell them, I'm like, they better be mostly physical mistakes, because you make too many mental mistakes, that's on you at that point.
Yeah.
You don't know your assignment, that's one thing. But I fumbled.
Yeah.
It happens. I've missed a block. A guy's run me over. So I've played 0 perfect football games.
Right.
Is there a coach that instilled just the self-belief and that confidence?
I don't know if there's just one person that's done that, and I say this humbly. I think I've been put in situations where I needed to develop. I needed to be a certain person, and I became that certain person for the people around me. I was around other coaches that didn't have the life experiences or the play experience I did. So I was able to go back and pull from that to help them become a better player or a better coach, even if they were my equals on a staff. And I think being put in those situations, and a lot of times maybe not having a coach look over my shoulder and allowing me to learn and fail and go out there and be myself, that was probably the best thing that could have happened. And I've tried to do that with a lot of my coaches. Say, no, my door's always open, okay? And I'm not gonna look over your shoulder. But if I question something, I'm gonna come talk to you about it, okay? Or if you have a question about something, come talk to me about it. But I wanted them to develop. I didn't want them, just like my players,
Yeah.
I don't want them to lose their personality, right? I talk to my receivers all the time about the top of their route. Everything's gonna look the same till you get to the top of the route a lot of times, and that's your personality. It's like our hairdos. If we had 100 guys in here, you're gonna have 100 hairdos
Right.
going on. I said, the top of that route is your hairdo, man. This is your personality. Make it what you want it to be, perfect it, okay? But every once in a while, you're gonna have to trim it. You're gonna have to fix it based on who you're playing, where you're going, right? You're not just going to the gym, you're going out to a 5-star restaurant. So sometimes you gotta change that hairdo based on what the top of that route, based on who you're playing
I love
as
that.
well. You have practice, you have the game, you had a Super Bowl, you're playing against the best in the world, then you're gonna have to change it a little bit. And I think being put in those situations allowed me to just find answers, man. And I had to go find those answers because I knew people were depending on me. And I think one of the great things in life that I think people want, they want to feel validated, they want to feel like people depend on them. You know, when you know people depend on you, that gives you purpose. And I think we all want purpose in this life.
I got 2 questions. What was the toughest thing you had to overcome as a player? And what was the toughest thing you had to overcome as a coach?
Toughest thing I had to overcome as a player was realizing I wasn't going to be a player anymore. You know, because even when I got into coaching, I was still throwing the ball probably better than the guys I was coaching. You know, so I always thought I could. You know, I always had that arrogance about me that I could play at a certain level. So that was probably the toughest part about being a player, was realizing I wasn't going to play again. But the benefit I got from that was I had always been coaching anyway. Even while I was playing, I was coaching. You know, if I was playing professional football, I was coaching high school ball. If I was playing, I was coaching at junior college, I was still playing professional football. But as a coach, probably the toughest thing for me was when arena football left. You know, I was there, I was with arena football for basically 28, 29 years. And when arena football went away, basically 2 years after we won the world championship, arena football went away. And all the way up to that point, I had reached the point where I was the highest paid coach in the league. I was top of the totem pole in arena football. And a week later, I'm collecting unemployment.
Wow.
But I'm still everybody's head coach that lost jobs. Office people, players, they're looking for answers. And then I got my wife. We had just bought our dream home when arena football folded. And I got my wife over there kind of giving me the fish eyes. You know, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
We're living in this big home, beautiful home, all of those things. And somehow we figured it out. But that was tough, man. That was tough. And the tough part about trying to get a job when you've been in arena football for 28 years, you're the arena guy.
Right.
Okay. And all of a sudden I'm calling people on the phone and interviewing over the phone, trying to get a job. And I was never a guy that was really a guy that went out there and networked, because I was the guy giving jobs to people, players, coaches. I'd help with front office people, all of those things. And all of a sudden I'm trying to get a job. All of a sudden I'm talking on the phone to a head coach, and maybe I sound like this, and maybe I threaten him in a way just because of how I sound and my confidence. So it was easy to hang up on me. But if I ever got across from somebody like this, anytime I got across from somebody, I got the job, if I wanted it.
Right.
You know, because I basically, I always went into an interview saying, I want whoever's interviewing me, if they're not playing football anymore, obviously, want to come play football for me. And I think I have that gift because I love what I do. And it's not a lie. I'm not trying to fool nobody.
Right.
It is who I am. And I think I scared a lot of people away. And I didn't have a lot of friends in what we used to call the outdoor game because you're in a football the whole time.
Oh,
It's the indoor football. So in the outdoor game, I didn't have a lot of connections out there. I had a few, but when you're the arena guy, it's very hard unless you can get across from somebody. And I never really got that opportunity. So that was probably the toughest part, is when I went from being basically the face and the voice of arena football at one point, because of all the commercials and things that we did that you
Yeah.
can probably find.
TV
that
deals
you've probably seen. And all of a sudden to somebody that's not relevant in the sport anymore. And I kind of had to reinvent myself.
Was part of that reinventing yourself? Were you already training QBs and receivers at that point, or did that come later, like more after the coaching?
That came a little bit later.
Yeah.
A little bit later, yeah, because, I was bouncing around and my family had to stay here in Chicago. I had to go somewhere else to coach during the season, so I was going back and forth. It was crazy. And then it got to the point where I was, what I was doing this for was date money. I do it on the weekends. I had a couple kids, and my couple kids happened to be Trey Taylor and Israel Abrams. And I don't know if you want to do your research on those two kids. They're probably the two top 2027 kids in the nation right now.
Oh, yeah, you can find them quick. You don't have to research for long.
And for 4 years, I had those two kids and their receivers. Trey was from Crystal Lake, and Israel was coming from Elgin, and we'd go over on Peck Road to James O'Brien Park, and I'd have a bunch of kids out there for 4 years. And training those kids and having a blast doing it. And it was date money so I could take my wife out somewhere nice. She's a hospice nurse. She deserves it. And it was what it was. And then all of a sudden, I get a job with a restoration company because I got, the college part of it didn't work out where I was. So I had a friend who I coached his kid on the side every once in a while. I owned a restoration company, BAC Restoration. Ed French, an amazing man, amazing family, and he gave me an opportunity to do sales there. Great, did that for a few years. Wasn't my cup of tea, but he was. I loved being around him, so it was okay. And then all of a sudden, there was one day, Deb and I are talking, Deb, my wife. It was the hospice nurse. She goes, I'm taking care of a lot of people with our family structure. They're our age. They got kids just like us. And she goes, I know you're not, thrilled about what you're doing right now. Maybe you get back into it. And that's when we made the hard decision to leave a job where you were kind of comfortable, I guess, with the money and the insurance and all of those things.
Yeah.
And we started it up, and probably in 2020.
Really?
So you can guess what happened in 2020. So all of a sudden I've started this company and COVID comes about. So we're not allowed to train anybody. We're not allowed to go into the facilities like we're here at the Sportsplex in St. Charles. They've been amazing to me over the last 5 years. And it was a tough road, brother. It was a tough road, and some people hung with me. And when I had to go away and coach college football, some of the kids that I was training had to go other places. And I didn't have a good feeling for all of those other people. And I didn't hear a lot of great things about all those other people. That's why my business had started to thrive a little bit when I left.
Uh-huh.
And so now they all ended up going with somebody else for about 2-3 years. And now I want to start this up. And now all of a sudden I start getting one person back, two person back. So I started from scratch. And that's probably what I'm proudest of. Those people who believed in me a long time ago, then it started to be word of mouth. And those 2 or 3 people, now I'm sending schedules out to over 200 families twice a week, individually, one by one. And I think I know those people trust me with their kids. And sometimes I'll lose a family because of convenience. Maybe I don't train by their home anymore.
Right.
And it's gotten tough, and maybe they've lost a job, and there's been dozens of people that have unfortunately lost their jobs. And I told them, what, don't worry about paying me right now. Don't let you losing a job have anything to do with your son losing the opportunity to live out his dream. So those people remember that. And once they get their job back, they come back. And those kids are still with me. They don't miss a beat. And I think, that's, if you live your life that way, honestly, really trying to help people and not abuse people and not trying to take advantage of people or trick people, that's transparent. And those people are going to be with you as long as they're doing football, and probably even longer than that.
Right. Well, it's funny because I train more sports performance. I have some athletes, volleyball players, softball, football, speed and agility. I mean, I learned from, my college internship was at Don Beebe's House of Speed, so I got that background, and I take a liking to it. And one of the things that I resonate with what you said is I trained like an idiot for so long. I had so many hamstring issues that I 100% blame on myself for just training the wrong way, overtraining, not resting at all. Because I was always undersized. I went to a Division III school, so when I sat in Coach Beebe's office, I was like, hey, what do I have to do to try to play professionally and give myself the best shot? And that's me having played my junior and senior year out of 21 games, 5 games. I was out with blown hamstrings, and I was like, you know what? If I can help an athlete, I give the analogy, we're gonna work hard, but we're gonna be smart too. I tell them, if you have 2 fields and one of them is 10 feet of soil and there's billions of dollars worth of gold and the other one's just soil forever, we can work as hard as we want, no one would just soil forever. Hard work's not enough. I want to dig deep in the gold field with billions of dollars worth of gold. I was like, when I was your age, I had the hard work down, but nobody taught me how this should be done. Yeah. If you're training the wrong mechanics as a quarterback, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You're training in the wrong direction. You may get a little bit better. So I was like, this is a blessing. All my injuries that were my fault that I went through because no one taught me how to train. Oh, I'll go squat heavy every single day. Like no one's like, it's probably not a good idea to squat heavy every single day and run hills and do this stuff. So now I'm like, I ask my athletes all the time, how much sleep did you get last night? What's your eating like? How's school going? How's your mental health? Yeah. Because I'm like, I was so set on hard work. I slept 2 hours a day. I worked landscaping at the time. I didn't eat. I get it. And then I come back to college and they're like, what is wrong with you? It's like, what do you mean? I'm probably the hardest worker on the team. It's like, your body fat's the only thing that's gone up. My body was so stressed out, cortisol. I didn't sleep at all. And I trained I say like an idiot, and I don't say that to be mean to myself, but it's like true. Looking back on it, I'm like, no one told me at the time. And in people's defense, because I'm going to take accountability, I didn't ask. Hey, is it good for me to max out squat every day?
It's ignorance.
Yeah.
Right? But now look how you're living your life. You weren't curious then.
Yeah.
Right? You were going to beat it to death. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Yeah. I'm going to muscle it in. Now you're being curious. You're asking questions. You're becoming knowledgeable. And now there's going to be one day where you go from being the idiot in the room to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to have the effect on people. If you're a positive person, you can have an unbelievable effect if you're the smartest person in the room. But you got to keep working at it.
Right.
And that room evolves.
Exactly. It's having the humility to say, I'll tell my athletes, they'll ask me a question, and instead of sugarcoating like a lot of people do, a lot of trainers, they'll ask me something. If I don't know, it's my responsibility to say, that's a great question. Let me look into that. I do not have the answer right now. I'm not going to BS you right now. I'm not going to tell you the wrong thing. And proof positive, and I'm so proud of him. My cousin got a scholarship to Air Force for football, and he was on nobody's radar after his junior year. He had one partial scholarship to a D2, Northern Michigan, after his junior year. And I'm like, hey, man, I know junior year is the biggest recruiting time. And same thing, your son didn't even start his junior year. I was like, but if we work at it and you completely become a different person, I'm like, you don't need 20 scholarships. You need one. That's it. One person.
Just need one person to love.
So, he went to Oswego and they went downstate this year, played Mount Carmel in the state championship game. And he got 8A All-State. And then after that Mount Carmel game, 4 calls. West Point, Dartmouth, Butler, and Air Force. We want to offer you a full ride. Story. And I told him, because he's not a guy who stands out that much on paper, but he was smart. And I'm like, I'm going to teach you. We're going to train hard, but we're going to train smart. And he was with Acceleration, learning from those guys too. I also, as someone who trains, I don't believe in gatekeeping. I believe in as long as they're good at what they do. What I mean by that is, I'm not going to train QB mechanics. I could get you bigger, faster, stronger, but I'm going to send them to you for QB mechanics.
Right.
I'm
Of course.
not teaching them that.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a D lineman, a young man I train, and he's like, I want to get D line work. I was like, I got a guy for that. I have a trainer for that. I can get you bigger, faster, stronger, but I'm not going to teach you swim moves and spins because that's not my area of expertise. I'm not going to outstep that because I feel I would lose a bunch of credibility in that environment.
Instantly.
You know, I could train running back receivers. I could teach you how to run routes. I could, teach you running back stuff, which is why I'm grateful that you had me with the quarterbacks. Because I was like, man, because I was partnered up. I'm like, this stuff works. I was like, I'm throwing better already in one session. I can't throw to save my life. I had one touchdown pass in college, though. It was a jump pass, a little Tim Tebow jump pass that I accidentally threw back shoulder. But I'm like, this stuff works.
Yeah.
I was like, I was a student that day, too. You know, with the young group of QBs.
We're all students, man.
Yeah.
I learned from my players. There's no doubt about it. You know, I watch so much film. I watch game film. I watch practice film. I see what they're going through. You know, I watched my son's practice film and game film, and a lot of the drills and situations I put players in came from watching film. And these are real life situations. I do a lot of red zone throws that I know they're doing now in the Elite 11 and doing all those things that we've been doing forever. You know, so it's a good thing, you know, when you see programs like that kind of imitate what you're doing. It's validation that you're doing the right things and that it's effective.
Last question.
Yeah.
We'll wrap this up. I appreciate your time. I come up to you, I'm a young athlete, and I ask, I want to be elite. I'm going to make it more relevant to you. I'm a quarterback, young quarterback. I want to be elite. What do I have to do?
How much time you got? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm talking to that kid, how much time you got? Because throwing a football, I can fill this room with a bunch of guys who can throw a football. But as soon as I ask them to make a read and make decisions and lead, this room gets empty. Now, how willing are you to be the voice of a program, to be the loudest voice once coach is done talking? Are you willing to do speed, strength, conditioning as well? Are you willing to lead a huddle? Are you willing to make the tough calls to a teammate that won't show up, that's not doing the extra work like everybody else is? If you're not willing to be that guy, and are you okay with being in the spotlight? Because there's only a few people who are in the spotlight when the game comes on, man, and it's right on the quarterback. Are you comfortable being that guy? Do you want to be that guy? Do you dream about being that guy? Then you have a chance of being elite if you have talent. You have to have some talent. There's no doubt about it. You've got to have some athletic ability. You know, otherwise you have a chance to be a solid game manager type of quarterback. You maybe will run a different type of offense, but if you want to throw the football, man, you've got to be able to throw the football. You've got to have some arm talent first if you want to be one of the elite guys. And then going from there, then you got to understand that you got to be willing to be coached as hard as that kid learning to play quarterback for the first time. If you're willing to work hard on the boring elements of the game, you'll probably, and you have talent, you'll probably end up being the most exciting guy on the field one day. And I've been fortunate enough to have a few of those guys in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Israel, Trey. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Malik play this year too, man.
There's a few guys out there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
the thing is, you know, I know I'm not the only guy out there. You know what I mean? And there's other good quarterbacks out there. And one of the things that I'm proud of, and I hope my thoughts are right, I think I've had an effect on other guys, on how they coach. And I'm not just talking the other guys that are just coaching quarterbacks. I think when you get teams that the head coaches are DMing me about something I put up there as a post, or they repost it, I think these guys are starting to treat their players differently and maybe run their programs a little differently. Because I think in the last 10 years, you start looking at the talent that's come out of Illinois, the kind of football that's being played in Illinois, it's good football.
Man.
And we got some of the best talent in the nation.
We're catching up. We were known as a basketball state, even when I was in high school.
Absolutely.
It seems like it's new within the past 5 years that, like, hey, we got some 4 and 5 stars, man. We got, I mean, I was telling my cousin, I had a little powwow with him that Thanksgiving. He was over before his Mount Carmel game. He's like, dude, they got 11 D1 guys. I'm like, so what? I was like, you're D1, bro. I told him, and this was before he had an offer. I'm like, You are a Division I football player. There's no doubt about it. He's at Air Force right now, shaved his head. I got some pictures. He's in training
That's good
camp
stuff, man.
and PT, man. He's it looks like he's loving it. You know, they took his phone. He's like, here's my P.O. box. You want to write me? I was like, oh, man. I was like, hey, listen, I told him the one thing. I was like, hey, it's going to be hard, probably the hardest physical thing you've done to your life up till this point.
Yeah.
The thought process is going to be in your head because it happens to everybody. I want to go home. I want to quit. I was like, don't.
Yeah.
I was like, don't, man. Don't do it. Do not do it. Find it.
Yeah.
Find that strength, man. I don't know if it's prayer life. I don't know what that looks like for you.
You're going to be part of that strength for him. He gave you his P.O. box.
Yeah.
Send him a letter, handwritten letter. Make sure he's getting it. You know what I mean? A couple bucks in it, or just tell him about what's going on in your life. You had a thought about him the other day, write about it, talk about it, and maybe how we shared this story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, he's just because he's gone, he's not gone. That a lot of people are rooting for him and thinking about him and praying for him.
All right. Last thing, and then we'll wrap this up. When you're looking to motivate somebody, what do you usually say? What's something that you feel will stir the athlete or the individual?
Well, first of all, I think when I talk to athletes, I make eye contact with them, and I force them to make eye contact with me. Because if I've instigated this conversation, then what I have to tell them is important, and I want to make sure they hear it, okay? And I want to make sure that, you know, they repeat it back to me a lot of times, what we talked about. Are you good with this? And because I don't think kids these days make eye contact with people anymore. You know, just like we're making this eye contact right here. It happens a lot in my sessions, and I'll duck my head and I'll make sure they see my eyes and they hear me, because I want them to get the information that's coming out of my mouth. I want them to live with it for that day. And not everything that comes out of my mouth is perfect for everybody.
Right.
Okay. And a lot of times whatever's coming out of my mouth is for just that kid. And I make sure I know what that kid's going through or what that kid needs. I'll talk to a parent, I'll talk to a teammate or whatever. Say, what's up with Billy, man? You ain't been the same guy. Coach is going through this, he's going through that. I didn't know that, and he didn't tell me about that. Now that I know that, maybe I can approach it another way. But I want to be sincere with what I'm saying, and the majority of my motivation comes from life experience. And like I said, I'm the old guy out there. And the one thing that I have that those guys don't, they don't have the life experiences that I've had, at least the length of the life experiences, the level of football I played at, and the coaches that I was coached by. And it's just, I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed. And I know those guys are working their tails off, trying to teach kids to spin the ball a little bit. But I think, you know, what I teach these guys is to play the position and how to deal with everything that comes with it, brother, because there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot that comes with it. And I don't take that lightly. And I make sure that anybody that I see that may be struggling with it, I don't wait for them to come to me.
Yeah.
I'll talk to them and see what's going on, or I'll talk to their parents and see what's going on. And thank God I've done that a couple of times, because we live in a tough world, and you know, I've seen people take their lives. And I really, truly believe going the extra yard, if you will, and talking to some of these kids and their parents have helped them deal with certain situations that maybe they would have dealt with in the wrong way. Or maybe their parents would have dealt with it in the wrong way that might have caused something that none of us want to have happen. And but I'm not going to run away from those situations. You know, anytime I see something going on with these kids, I'm hoping that I'm that voice that they hear that'll keep them from doing something bad, or maybe their voice becomes the voice that helps somebody else that might be going through it stop what they're going to do. Because we all deserve, you talked about that gold, that land of gold. We all have gold in us, man. And it may be not football gold. It may be social gold. It may be business gold. It may be family gold. It may be able to help someone with their pet. Whatever it is, we all have gold in us. And if we're afraid to bring it out because we're going to be chastised for it or criticized for it, then shame on us. Shame on those people criticizing everybody. Allow people to be who they're supposed to be in this world, in this life. And maybe our world will turn into the world that we're all hoping for and not complaining about.
I can't think of a better way to wrap that up, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you. Yeah, that was awesome.